Quote mining is one of the most disingenuous things you can do when you're trying to prove someone wrong. But Matt Powell has got no problem with it whatsoever as he goes after Charles Darwin. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a huge thank you to the sponsors of this video today, Raycon. Raycon have made a real name for themselves in premium audio. Their everyday earbuds are known for delivering high quality audio and thoughtful features like a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wear and lasting comfort. Raycon provide premium tech products at a great price, which have earned them tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. And in the past year, Raycon have also expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Now, we've recently had a big storm here on the south coast of the UK, so I've enjoyed hunkering down at home and listening to some chilled music on my Raycons watching the storm pass. Now, Raycon has an early Black Friday promotion across their entire site with 20% off everything and 50% off selected products, like 25% off fitness earbuds, 30% off tech kits, 30% off impact earbuds and impact speakers, and 50% off other selected items. All this means you should really be looking towards Raycon when thinking about shopping for those holiday gifts. Get an early start on all those holiday sales by shopping Raycon's early Black Friday sale today. Go to buyraycon.com/SimonDan to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. Right, back to today's video, which sees Matt Powell have a dig at one of the most influential people in the history of science, Charles Darwin. Now, many of you know that I once started the rumour that Matt Powell has a giant inflatable banana in his back garden, which he calls Dr. Peel. Now, I cannot confirm or deny if that rumour is true, but a lot of people are saying it. Anyway, on with the video. Take it away, Matt.
Darwin couldn't even get a job. In fact, he was so lazy he wouldn't apply himself that finally his dad stepped in and got him a job. And it was to be a companion for a ship captain as they were floating about near the Galapagos. Now, his role was unpaid, and it was just to give the captain somebody to talk to.
I don't think Matt knows how to use air quotes, does he? Why would you air quote that?
And when they landed on the Galapagos, they observed a few finches that had speciated 14 kinds of finches, and Darwin concluded that just because they had slightly different beak shapes and different anatomical features, that all life shares common ancestry.
This is one of the most ambitious oversimplifications I've ever heard. Sure, the finches helped, but his trip was in 1835. On the Origin of Species was released 24 years later in 1859.
That you and I and every other living organism descended from a single cell. And this is considered the greatest discovery of all time. And Darwin is often considered the world's #1 discoverer.
Let's not forget the work of Alfred Russel Wallace, who was given the title of co-discoverer, if you will. Now, he actually did come up independently with theories on natural selection, so we've got to give him some credit too.
Bear in mind that our next #1 discoverer came across some things in nature that surprised him, and he tried to explain what he saw. It's not the story of a guy just trying to cause trouble. It's the story of the guy who made what you and I consider the #1 discovery in science so far.
After Darwin had made these observations and came to some interesting conclusions, his life took a very dark turn. In fact, he said this about women: man has ultimately become superior to woman. He said the chief distinction in the intellectual powers of the two sexes is shown by man's attaining to a higher eminence in whatever he takes up than can woman.
As usual with Matt, he has quote mined here. That first quote, for example, was from The Descent of Man. And the paragraph in particular that this quote comes from was all about sexual selection. That was the context. And how the male is often endowed with physical characteristics in order to compete for a mate. That is the context in which this was written here, but Matt's taken that short line and taken it entirely out of context. Now that's not cricket, is it, Matt?
And it even gets worse. Darwin's book, The Origin of Species, the original title is The Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. Darwin believed that certain people groups were inferior to others. He said, at some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world.
Yes, Darwin did consider white Europeans to be superior than other races in the world, which is plainly wrong, of course. There is no defence for that whatsoever. But I don't know how that argument from Matt takes anything away from the discovery of natural selection. If this is a character attack on Charles Darwin, then perhaps you should think about your argument a bit more and start attacking his work if you can do that. Galileo and Isaac Newton were grumpy sods, but their work was still brilliant all the same.
And later on in Darwin's life, he admitted this. He said, I am very stupid, and I hate everybody and everything. And so it would make sense that he promoted the lie of evolution. Because if he hates people, it's no wonder he came up with such a crazy, wild ideology.
But again, none of this has anything to do with his discovery. Natural selection is a thing whether you like it or not, or whether it impinges on your beliefs. But once again, Matt has taken a quote out of context here. The full quote is, "But I am very poorly today and very stupid and hate everybody and everything." Clearly, Darwin was just having a bad day when he wrote that. We've all been there, haven't we?
So, Bill, Darwin was a big collector. He came up with evolution by natural selection. Could you give us like a 3-minute exposition of Darwin's theory of evolution?
The thing that is fascinating is Charles Darwin wrote this book where he has the theory and the experiments, looking at his collections and reaching amazing conclusions.
He said, I am very stupid, and I hate everybody.
I'm a biologist, and Darwin has been an inspiration to me throughout my whole career.
While secular humanists would have us believe that Darwin was a genius, in reality he was a misogynist, a racist. He hated women, he hated marriage, he hated work. He was afraid he was living in Fantasyland, and he admitted to hating everybody and everything. That's the truth.
When he was ill, having a bad day. And yeah, he hated marriage, but he got married at 30 and was married for his whole life.
He said, often a cold shudder has run through me, and I have asked myself whether I have devoted myself to a fantasy. And so Darwin was afraid that everything he believed was based on a fantasy.
And the quote mining continues. And this quote was from a letter Darwin wrote to his friend and mentor, geologist Charles Lyell. Now in this letter he was thanking Lyell for his amendment to Lyell's new book on geology, and a particular section about species, bringing it more in line with Darwin's work. And Matt's not even got the quote right properly either. It is supposed to read, I may not have devoted my life to a fantasy. Dear oh dear.
Now, this just shows us that he didn't actually believe in scientific law, because if he did, he wouldn't be afraid that he was living in Fantasyland. People can come up with their own opinions about Darwin, and they can continue to claim that he was a wonderful man and a scientific genius.
You don't have to be both. You can be one or the other.
But in reality, Darwin hated life. He hated you and I. He hated Jesus. And that's why he spoke out against Christianity.
And there is the real reason that he's making his video, trying to discredit Darwin because his theory flies in the face of his beliefs.
The sad truth about Darwin is that he actually was supposed to be a man of God. His dad always wanted him to be a preacher and somebody that would spread the truth of God's word to the public.
He was atheistic regarding the Christian God, yes, but I don't think he ever truly discounted some sort of supernatural being.
But Darwin got involved with the wrong crowd of people, and he got involved with the wrong ideologies, and he let Satan take over his life, and that's when everything took a turn for the worst in his existence.
Satan took over his life? Seems a bit drastic, doesn't it? I think what we can deduce from this video that Matt's produced is that he is trying to discredit Darwin personally. And I think he's doing that not because he believes that Darwin's character was questionable, but because his work and his book threaten Matt's beliefs, especially the belief that Earth is only 6,000 years old. On the Origin of Species totally contradicts that, and in a very eloquent and definitive manner. Well, there we go, a very interesting video from Matt Powell there. What do we all think about his take on Charles Darwin and his incessant quote mining? That is it though for another Tinfoil Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching today. It truly is appreciated. We're all done and dusted. If you liked it today, please do consider giving the video a thumbs up. And of course, if you really liked it, please do consider subscribing to the channel. We're very close to that 500,000. All the subscribers now is certainly helping for that push before the end of the year. Just enough time to once again thank Raycon for sponsoring today. Remember, to get involved in their early Black Friday sale, visit buyraycon.com/SimonDan to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourself a cracking week, and I'll see you all on Friday for another video from CC, Chris from New York, Westchester County. He's rampant at the moment. See you then.